VP, the pick is Tim Walz, my governor here in Minnesota. And let me tell you, my emotions have been mixed, mainly because with Walz at the helm here in Minnesota, we have become one of the most progressive states in the union, okay? He passed sweeping progressive reform here last year, including billions of dollars in new funding for schools and infrastructure, universal free school meals for students, free tuition at public college for low-income families. He's had a goal to get to 100% clean electricity by 2040, created statewide paid leave programs, legalized marijuana, passed stricter gun laws, gave unauthorized immigrants access to driver's license, eliminated nearly all state abortion restrictions, protected gender-affirming care for trans youth, and proposed codifying Minnesota abortion rights and restoring voting rights for the formerly incarcerated. Okay, that's Tim Walz. That's who we're talking about. But who is he really? The internet is home to some pretty shady things, and it can create a real danger to your personal safety in a lot of ways, not least of which being the ability for anyone anywhere to find out your personal information. Yikes. The newest scam trick that I've seen people try is sending these random conversational texts from an unknown number. Literally, as I was writing that last sentence for the script, I got one that just said, "Good morning." I've also gotten some that just say, "Hi, how are you?" and "What are you doing?" These texts are unnerving, and I could see how someone could fall for it, especially if they're waiting for a text from someone or don't know that this is a scam that's going around. One reason that I'm getting these spammy calls and texts is because big companies can't keep our data safe. AT&T recently revealed that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. So, what can you do to protect yourself? I use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura will alert me if they find my phone number or any other sensitive information has been compromised. And they give me fast fraud alerts if anyone tries to use that data to access my credit or bank accounts. Aura does so much more to keep me safe too. I also get things like transaction monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, and identity theft insurance. I get all of this in one app at one affordable price. I can also get their AI-powered call assistant that will pick up unknown calls on my behalf to screen them for spam or scams. The AI forwards legitimate calls to me so I don't miss appointments, deliveries, and emergencies. And it protects me from harmful text messaging by filtering out known spam numbers and scanning links in the message for phishing threats. If cutting down on the spam in your life is something you're interested in, you can go to aura.com/Legia to start your 2-week free trial. The link is in the description below. Thanks, Aura. Honestly, a lot of what I just said makes me kind of nervous about his clout with more moderate voters, which is something that Harris is concerned about, rightfully so, because those are some pretty sweeping progressive reforms, though they are widely popular with Minnesotans. He did catch some flack for his COVID-19 response. Some people were mad about him like closing things down and giving a shit about public health and stuff, but otherwise, largely really popular. However, I want to talk about his background because I think his pedigree, his life prior to all those sweeping reforms, make him a good candidate to round out Kamala Harris's candidacy. He was born and grew up in a tiny town in Nebraska, which balances Harris's elite West Coast credentials, adding to his everyman non-elitist credentials. He served in the Army National Guard for 25 years, I believe. He was deployed overseas, rose to the rank of command sergeant major, and then retired from the military. He went to a state college in Nebraska. He spent a year teaching in China and can still converse in Mandarin. He got a master's degree at a state university in Minnesota. Also, as I was saying that, I can definitely see a conservative talking point coming up saying like, well, he lived in China for a year, so like probably in bed with the Chinese government. Don't let them fool you. It was 1 year in like the 90s. Okay, calm down. And the fact that he's at least vaguely bilingual is more than I think a lot of our politicians can say. He got a master's degree at a state university in Minnesota. After that, he was a high school geography teacher. He met his wife when he was working as a high school geography teacher in Nebraska in the 90s, and they have 2 children who they conceived through IVF, edgy. While he was teaching geography, he was also the football coach and the faculty advisor to the Student Gay Straight Alliance in the 90s. Talk about progressive. He obsessively drinks Diet Mountain Dew and does not consume coffee or alcohol. That's because, as far as I could tell, he got a DUI once in the 90s and then learned a lesson, grew as a person, quit drinking alcohol, and now like obsessively drinks Diet Mountain Dew, which kind of makes him as of the people as one can be. Frankly, more than J.D. Vance could ever hope to be with his Diet Mountain Dew stories. This is a man who's guzzling that stuff, just trying to keep it straight and narrow, you know what I mean? That's relatable. He also gets car sick and can only ride in the front seat, even when being driven in fancy hired cars, also highly relatable. His chief of staff has worked with him for 18 years, which says a lot if you work for your same boss for 18 years. That's a long time, okay? He served in the U.S. House of Representatives starting in 2006. He served a largely conservative, rural southern Minnesota district, and he beat out a 6-term Republican incumbent to win that seat. He served 6 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives, being known as someone who was able to cooperate, reach across the aisle, work on bipartisan issues. And then he ran and won his seat as Minnesota's governor in 2018 and won re-election handily in 2022, despite complaints from Republicans, again, about COVID, but also about spending down our huge budget surplus, you know, the government budget that to, like, pay for government services and stuff. They were mad that he spent it on government services and stuff. He is popular with workers and unions, having championed union organizing, workers' rights, and an increased minimum wage. The man knows how to communicate. He's down to earth. He talks in clear terms that don't make it feel like you're listening to a politician who's trying to avoid answering the question, you know?
Kind of breaking that spell again of saying, look, he's not offering you anything. And then we dang sure better be ready to offer something. We have to show them that this isn't, there's nothing strange about this. You know, they'll try and say this ultra-liberal. That's where we need to be more specific. Or do you mean the free school lunches? Is that what you, are the roads and bridges we built in this town? Is that what you're speaking about? Governor, you spent a surplus money on this. Yeah, you mean when we eliminated the Social Security tax for most seniors? That's the one that most bothers you? There's never a specific. They don't give you a specific on what the liberal agenda is. And we have to do a better job of saying this is what it is.
And that's a quality that I think Trump supporters think Trump has, when really he just rambles and says offensive shit once in a while. Walz speaks in a down-to-earth, accessible way that is actually what I think people who think they like how Trump talks are looking for, if that makes sense. He's also genuinely funny. He gives strong dad or grandpa vibes. He has a 23-year-old daughter, so he even knows about Brad Summer, y'all, okay? He is a universally palatable guy, I would venture to say. That being said, like I said, those really progressive policies he pushed in Minnesota make me nervous about him as a VP pick. I was actually strongly in favor of Mark Kelly for VP. He's from Arizona, super important swing state. He was an astronaut. I mean, conservatives and moderates love that shit, right? He was a husband to incredibly popular Gabby Giffords, and I think he would appeal maybe more strongly than Tim Walz would to moderates. That being said, Mark Kelly is a Senate Democrat, and we frankly can't lose a single Democrat in the U.S. Senate right now, and there's no guarantee that Arizona would replace him with a Democrat in a special election scenario. So, like, as much as I was pushing for Mark Kelly, mainly because I didn't want y'all to be taking Tim Walz, but also because Tim Walz is pretty progressive, and that makes me nervous about swing voters and moderates. That being said, I think I'm okay with Mark Kelly keeping that Senate seat Democratic. I mean, okay. Also on the potential list was Andy Bashir. Frankly, I don't like his face. Sorry, he's got an unelectable face. There's something about it. I don't trust the guy. I don't trust him. And as silly as that is, and not actually based on any facts or policy or whatever, that's how people vote. That's how people vote. We can pretend all day that that's not, but that is how people vote, okay? And Shapiro was also in the running, but I think came with way too much baggage and Zionism to make him a very viable candidate. I do think that Walz was the correct choice in this. However, now the job of the Harris-Walz campaign is to introduce Walz to voters. We love him here in Minnesota. He's got great approval ratings, but an ABC News Ipsos survey found that nearly 9 in 10 U.S. adults don't know enough about him or have no opinion of him. He didn't come in with the name recognition that someone like Mark Kelly has. That being said, his public profile has risen dramatically, literally in just the last 2 weeks. A conversation he had in which he called Republicans a bunch of weirdos went viral. And now everyone in the Democratic Party is calling Republicans a bunch of weirdos, and Republicans are like, wait, we're not weird, and they really don't know what to do with it, and I love that. I love that for us. Other videos of him are circulating widely on social media. People are discovering that he's witty, that he can talk like a regular person and not some creepy, slimy politician. Frankly, I think it's largely been positive, the overall national public reception, at least over here in my personal social media echo chamber, okay? So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But just generally speaking about polling, 9 in 10 U.S. adults say they have a favorable opinion of military veterans generally, according to another Ipsos poll conducted in 2024. About 8 in 10 say that about school teachers as well. Both measures are much higher than for government employees.